What's going on?
I don't.
What's happening?
Good
morning,
guys.
audience.
There we go. All right. I don't know what happened to our little, song this morning, but I guess it didn't want to cooperate. It's not in a singing mood.
Just blame me as my wife always does. It's always my fault. It's always my fault.
Because you bring the darkness to the show, Robbie.
The darkness.
Anyway.
Is that a racial comment, Ted?
No,
that's totally inappropriate.
It was a comment
is that because I have
about
a black wife? Is that what this
Exactly.
Oh my God.
It's because my brother over there's got a deeper tan than I've got. Damn you, Ted! You're such a racist.
Yeah. By the way, if I look a little speckled today, it's because I was at the dermatologist yesterday and they froze off a bunch of shit off my face. Anyway, thanks for joining us. You're watching DeProgram with Ted Rall and Jamarl Thomas for Thursday, July 30th, 2026. We greatly appreciate you joining us, listening, watching, whatever. If you're in the live hour, we would love to hear from you. Please put your comments in the chat in YouTube or Rumble, and producer Robbie will get to you and we'll answer your questions and engage with you that way. Okay, so let's go over what's going on. There's this old, disused Bill Clinton era. People always forget that Democrats, well, I don't forget, you don't forget, but other people forget that Democrats work really hard to be at least as evil as Republicans whenever possible. And one of these examples, Bill Clinton had many of them. He had the crime bill, he had welfare reform, he had NAFTA, WTO, all that stuff. But one of the episodes that kind of like never got off the ground back in 1996 and during the first Clinton administration was this star chamber that was inside the Department of Justice called the Alien Terrorist Removal Court. And It's never been used because it has so many problems in terms of, it basically doesn't really respect basic constitutional rights for defendants.
Just to be clear, did you say star chamber?
Yeah, I'm calling it a star chamber.
Okay.
You know what a star chamber is?
No, I don't.
A star chamber. Well, so it became famous. This is a medieval English. Robbie probably really knows the details of this. Robbie, do you know what a British star chamber was?
No, that's a new one for me.
Okay, never mind. Okay, anyway, a star chamber was basically a secret court that adjudicated things without the defendant even knowing that they were on trial. So it might be like they might be literally like, we've decided that Jamarl Thomas is so a panel would get together and say, Jamarl Thomas is accused of this and that, and then they talk about it, and they might even decide like he's got to be executed. And instead of just bringing you in, there's no legal procedure. You're just whacked in the street, right?
You mean like a FISA court?
It's like a FISA court on acid, right?
Yeah.
So they basically there's a movie from the 1970s called Star Chamber where basically the plot line is that judges are frustrated by the courts and the criminal justice system's inability to control street crime. So they form a star chamber and hire assassins to kill like criminals who they can't convict in a court of law because their lawyers are too good, right? So anyway, this is so I'm calling this a star chamber. So this is called this is from 1996. Bill Clinton put in this Alien Terrorist Removal Court and pushed it through Congress, but it was never used. Well, guess what? Donald Trump is using it, and its first victim is up to bat right now. It's a lady from Afghanistan, Nazira Zada. She lives in Fort Worth, Texas. She's 47 years old. She's accused of plotting an ISIS terror plot during Election Day 2024. Sure. Her sons have already been implicated in this. But basically, this is really disturbing shit. So basically, if you are targeted for removal as an alien terrorist, even if you're a legal permanent resident with a green card, you have no right. Your lawyer has no right to review any evidence against you, nor because it's classified, nor are you even allowed to challenge how that evidence may have been collected, perhaps illegally, perhaps by torturing someone, perhaps by illegal espionage against someone, and stuff like that. So that's underway right now, and and so obviously, I have to think this will not be the last time that such a court will be employed.
Oh, of course not. This is the beginning. No, this is the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting closer and closer to the Enabling Act, right? Where the president just functions as a God king, and that the Constitution and the Congress is just an appendage that is just ignored. We're getting closer and closer to that point. I mean, whether you're talking about FISA and secret courts, whether you're talking about another secret court, as you call a star chamber, as you point out, this is on acid. We have getting to the point where the courts, basically the White House is trying to bypass the courts. And this is no different than Obama making the argument. Well, this is different, but Obama's thing was bad also. This idea of, I think it was Eric Holder who made the argument that when they murdered Alawaki and his kids, that a court, what do you say, it can be adjudicated in the executive branch. It doesn't require the judicial branch for adjudication on these matters. And it's like, whoa, that's interesting. So the executive branch has effectively said the courts aren't necessary for us to murder people, for us to murder Americans. Okay, that's wild, right? Congress didn't challenge that. And there was no way for the courts to challenge it unless somebody actually took it to court. But nobody seemed to care all that much when this was effectively taking place. Okay, well, this is just another step on that ladder. Okay, well, we don't need the courts to make decisions about who we need to get rid of. We can have secret evidence, secret information that you are unprivy to. But if we did make it aware to, we have to kill you because we made it aware to you. But just trust us. Just trust us. That's all.
You can just trust us. And obviously, given the government's, go ahead, Robbie.
This is one of the examples of Trump doing the right thing the wrong way. I mean, I have no problem with people getting deported. That's not a secret. But how you do it and why you do it matters. Like, it can't be a secret. If you're doing something wrong, and if you're here illegally, they'll give you your papers. Go with God and be done with it. But if you're brought in and you're given a green card or something, then that means you are here legally. You're a guest. That means that you have a lot of the same rights that you and me have. That means that you're entitled to due process. The government just can't scoop you up and disappear you. So at the very least, they should explain, okay, this is what she did. She violated the public trust that she agreed to whenever we allowed her to come here. So she's going back home. That would be the right way to do things. And I don't understand why Trump is insisting on doing the right thing the wrong way. It's got to be a power grab. That's not that makes any sense.
It's a power grab. He can do it, so he's doing it. And he has a hard on about illegal immigrants. It's that. I mean, it's not like anybody's stopping him. So what's the hedge? I mean,
here's a question, a side question, right? I mean, the big question, obviously we don't want to lose this, is when will something like this start to be used against American citizens? I've got to think it's not. The answer to that question is not never. Sorry for the convoluted way to say that. But another question is, if this woman was really, with ISIS, which, I've seen the video of them, setting that helicopter pilot on fire in the cage. I mean, they're terrifying, right? It's like if she's really with ISIS and her whole family, they were looking to, I would imagine this is ISIS Khorasan, by the way, the Afghan version of ISIS, and she's from Afghanistan. But anyway, if she's with ISIS-K and she's looking to kill Americans during a national federal election, seems to me like deportation might not really be the right answer here, right? I mean, shouldn't she be brought up on proper charges in front of a proper court? Or is it likely that they just don't really have any real evidence against her, and that's why they're using this?
Don't have any real evidence. I mean, I don't believe the government when it comes out with stuff like this. My reflexive reaction is to claim or to believe that they're lying. It is a bit rich for Donald Trump to bring a head chopper to the U.S., shake his hand, claim that he's a great guy, when the guy used to work for ISIS. Meaning you can't have a head chopper come to the country that still runs other head choppers. that we call Syria or the president of Syria, and then complain that, hey, there's
He wears a suit now. He wears a suit
he has a
now.
suit. Maybe it's
So
because
that's
she's not in the suit. I guess my thing is, how do you do that and then still make an argument that we are somehow against ISIS? We're using these terrorists all across the globe. And by the way, same thing with Ukraine. We use Ukrainian terrorists also all across the globe. They've been caught in Iraq. They've been caught in Egypt. They've been caught in India. They've been caught, et cetera, et cetera. I guess my point is, we use terrorism. So the idea that we're complaining about somebody who's supposedly affiliated with the terrorists is a bit rich. I don't know if what the government is saying is true because the government is not disclosing, quote, evidence, unquote, that they apparently have, just like they weren't
They
disclosing
lie
quote,
so
evidence
often.
against fishermen that they were blowing up in the Caribbean. So, no, they're using a mechanism to get rid of people who they don't want in the country for Trump that just so happens to be anybody that has a green card, anybody that's an immigrant, anybody that's obviously of a different racial persuasion.
It feels like it definitely feels like a dry run, right? I mean, it feels like this is a classic slippery slope thing. And I really do want to like linger a little bit on your point about like when the government, reveals one of these so-called plots, 99% of the time they turn out to be bullshit. I mean, the Gretchen Whitmer, kidnap plot
The
is
Wolverines.
got enough holes. You got enough holes to drive a truck, several driverless trucks through. It's just ridiculous. And so I mean, it's kind of like, look, I'm old fashioned. If you have evidence against someone, and by the way, conspiracy just generally really bothers me. Like, oh, you were thinking of doing something, but you didn't really do it, and it's like.
That's a thought crime.
Crime really? Should that really be a crime? I'm not sure.
No, I don't think that. I mean, it depends, right? From my point of view, you have to have tangible work in it for it to be a real conspiracy. Like, for example, I remember I was getting in a fight with Malik over the guys that were in Virginia, because he was like, well, that's a thought crime. They never really did it. It's like, but they put weapons in Virginia, meaning they had the weapons ready. It's not like they just showed up and it was like, yeah, if something happened, we'll go to the weapon shop. It's not that. They prepared. That's not just them thinking about it. That's them doing something that could have gotten a lot of people killed. Like, but if you're talking about just, there was a bunch of guys in the room and one guy was talking a lot of trash, and so we're getting them up on thought crimes. Okay, that guy might have just been talking trash. And in the Whitmer case, most of those guys were feds. It was the feds who whipped them up. It was the feds that helped get them the weapons or the bombs or whatever the hell they were going to use.
Totally.
The feds did all of that stuff. And then they blamed, it was like, okay, these guys were going to try to kidnap Whitmer.
The feds ginned up the plot and then recruited people for it.
Yeah. So, it's like, would they have done this without the feds?
So one thing about Stuart Rhodes, and I'm not going to try to be mean to the guy because he's already dumb. But I know him. I know. We went to church together. I know Stuart Rhodes. He lives about.
Explain who Stuart Rhodes is for people who might.
So he was the head of Oath Keepers. He's the guy that you're talking about. That him and his little posse went to Virginia. They went to the.
We're talking about in preparation for January 6, 2021.
Yeah. So they went there. He was just rah, Trump all the way. So for one thing, he's short, he's fat, he's out of shape, and the reason why he wears an eye patch is because when he was in the Army, he dropped his gun and shot himself. This is not the kind of guy who, and I'm telling you, this is the God's honest truth.
Did he get a purple heart for that?
That's how his eye got screwed up. He is not a Rambo type. He's a lawyer. He is a lawyer,
but he acts like Rambo.
He's a retard. I'm telling you, I know the man. So here in the Flathead Valley of Montana, as part of what is called the Christian Readout, I kid you not, look up the term. It's a lot of these survivalist types who like to come here and they think that when the bloom goes up, this will be the place for a regeneration, a rebirth of classic Americana. On paper, I agree with it. The problem is that they don't have the brains between them to fix a car. Stuart Rhodes is one of those kind of people, Ted, who's educated beyond his intelligence.
So let's bring us up to speed about the topic here.
Okay.
Right?
Well, no. I get the
picture. Right.
I mean, when it comes to the whole, to the point that you're trying to make, they brought the guns, they left in Virginia. They shouldn't have been charged because, for one thing, he was too stupid to do anything. For a second point, he did not bring the guns. You cannot convict someone for trying to overthrow the government when you have no means whatsoever to do so.
But what about JT's point here, though, which is, look, they transported guns from somewhere else, I don't know, out of state, whatever, and then they brought them to a staging area within a short drive of Washington, D.C.
No.
I mean, that's not preparation, right?
That's not nothing.
Yeah, but it's not a crime either.
But it's not.
I mean,
but the question is
it
conspiracy is a crime? I don't think it really necessarily ought to be. But like, if certainly within there, I agree completely with Jamarl. If it's trash talking, like, oh man, we should kidnap that horrible governor of ours, that's one thing. It's
right.
like, but like you go to you go and you buy duct tape and masks. Okay, now you've started to prepare things, although it's like not illegal to buy duct tape or masks, but it is preparation. And so is the Stuart Rhodes thing preparation?
It's preparation for what? It's a preparation for a cosplay. First of
all, those were fake guns. Wait, were those fake guns?
No, they're real guns. But okay, so here's the point that I'm trying to make. One, if right wingers ought to be violent. You both can agree with that. If the intention was to go and actually overthrow the government, they would not have left their guns in Virginia. Instead, what they went to D.C., they went to the rally, they waited for their Orange King to give them the go-ahead. All right, this is it, boys. We're seizing Congress. We're going to arrest them all. Get your guns. It starts today. That would have been a call to action, and then they're dumb enough to have done that. Yes.
Yeah. And then to JT's point, they would have driven across the Key Street Bridge and picked up the guns and come back to DC.
Yes.
Correct. But the point I'm trying to make is
that's the literal point of conspiracy laws. Because the reality of it is, suppose all of that took place.
Sure.
Trump never calls for the revolution.
There's no conspiracy.
Right. I guess my point is, at which point should somebody be convicted of a crime? Meaning, so I can get all the way up to 99.999% of committing a crime and then stop. Meaning, at what point should the feds get involved?
Well, it'd be like this.
Meaning, I don't want them making stuff up. Meaning, sure. I don't want the feds coming to somebody and says, hey, that governor sucks. we should do something about that. And we should get the guns, and we should get the weapons, and we should get the duct tape. Okay, I don't want that, right? I don't want them instigating a crime. But the reality of it is, Donald Trump had, for the longest time, claimed that the election was stolen. Donald Trump had hit on this third rail of American politics, of this idea of legitimacy, meaning the new government is not legitimate, which means, okay, if it's not legitimate, then that means people can do whatever they want. They're not under the guise of this particular government, and you have a bunch of yahoos with guns.
Yep.
Even if they're not holding the guns, they have the guns in an area where they can go and get the guns.
I'm a yahoo with a bunch of guns. So, I mean, I guess that's the problem with the argument, right? So,
you're not a yahoo.
And I guess the question could be raised of when is it right for the government to get involved to stop something?
I mean, Robbie, even if it didn't come to fruition. Robbie, let's say you don't like the governor of Montana. Okay. And so it's Helena. Helena is the capital.
Helena is the capital, yeah.
Okay, so you're like talking here on the show about like how much you fucking hate the governor of Montana, and and then there's a protest, and you go to the protest, and you bring a whole pile of guns and grenades, and you leave them in your hotel room, but you go to the protest, and then later it comes out that you're waiting to hear from Stuart Rhodes, that like, hey, when I give the signal, go back to the Marriott, get your guns. Have you conspired? I mean, it's a question. I don't have an answer.
I would answer your question with a question, and this would be how I would kind of peg this back to Trump. You cannot peg somebody for conspiracy if the person that's in charge of the conspiracy never enacts it. You can prepare for it. Like, for example, if you, Ted, had a problem with one of your neighbors, you're like, Robbie, I'm going to take this guy out. I need you to help me bury the body. I'm right there with you. And I drive to New York, and I'm fully prepared to help you get rid of your neighbor.
Bring the shovel. Yeah, you're
But
ready
then
to
you
go.
decide, well, I'm not going to kill my neighbor after all. Have either one of us committed a crime? The answer is no, because there's not been an action. You see what I'm saying? Preparation for something
Yeah,
does not matter.
I think
And for
it's an interesting
conspiracy,
question, right?
and then for conspiracy, can you have conspiracy if the head of the conspiracy itself, in this case, Donald J. Trump, is free as a bird and is never charged? Can anyone who supports him and is waiting for a call to action to come from him, if that never happens, is that man guilty of a crime? He's guilty of being stupid.
Wait. Trump is not the head of the conspiracy. Donald Trump never talked to Stuart Rhodes, from my understanding.
Donald Trump is always saying the election's stolen, the democracy, the government's being overthrown, we're being cooed. And
Yeah, but he never told Stuart Rhodes to go get guns to overthrow the government.
he
At
told
least not that I'm
people,
aware of.
well, he told people to raise hell.
True, but that's
So
different
there
than
you
him working with somebody
What was
to get
his
the
whole
meaning.
like stand by and get ready or whatever?
stand by and get ready. What does that mean? That means you stand
Yeah.
by and you get ready. And when the word goes up, that's when you
No,
act.
but the White House is going to make the argument. I never had a conversation with these people. They
would
did this on their
Yeah,
own.
Trump has plausible deniability.
I
Yeah.
would always, when it comes to the government, and listen, I could be completely wrong here. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just telling you how I think. I would always rather to err on the side of the government not putting someone in prison and ruining their life for something that never happens. Because if the government can start to parse it, to go after you for what's in your heart or in your mind, that's a power I don't want any government to have, especially
Right,
mine.
agreed. No, I agree with you. But this wasn't just in his heart and his mind. They got
Sure wasn't.
weapons.
I agree,
think
but they
that's
never
the- I
used
think
them.
that's look, under normal circumstances, I would agree with you. The weapons thing freaks me out because this was during the period of an interregnum, for one, meaning the government was not necessarily at its most stable point. It was in a period of transition.
Sure.
Trump was exploiting the transition for his own ends in order to stay in power.
Yep.
And then you get, thankfully, the military standing down, but then you get these other yahoos that are willing to bring on the revolution.
Yep.
And they got guns to try to do it. Now, whether they were going to be successful is secondary to the point that they were willing to try. And governments get very dodgy around people trying to overthrow those governments, hence the radical response in regards to putting people in prison, I would argue, in some cases, torturing grandmas and all this other stuff.
Let me tell you why I have guns, because this might be the best way I can answer your question. I enjoy hunting. That's not why I have guns. The reason why I have guns is for when the government oversteps to the point where the only way that you can stop them is by denying them monopoly on force. That is why I have firearms. The day that jackbooted thugs start coming out is the day that this guy right here is going to start hunting two-legged deer as opposed to four-legged ones. Now, is that a conspiracy?
That's not a conspiracy. Bringing guns to Virginia with the idea of waiting for Trump to bring on the revolution, I would argue.
If you think the government is
I know where I
being
am in all
overthrown,
this. I know where I am in all this. Where I am in all this now, and we should take some comments here. Is basically it is probably conspiracy what he did, but I don't think conspiracy should really be a crime. So, I think because it's too gray. I mean, crimes should be easy to determine, and how far is far enough, right? I don't think that people should be prosecuted for things that are 12 reasonable jurors could all agree or disagree on what constitutes conspiracy. I mean, I think so. I mean, that's where I am. But let's do some comments. Okay, so
the fact that all of us split on this gets across the gray nature of it, right?
Yeah, and we agree on a lot, right? So Stormborn, thanks for the $2. Listened to the Q&A yesterday, thank you, and have some follow-ups. Number one, the Wisconsin shooting last week happened just down the street from my office. The Madison Police Department has no body cams and are being too quiet. Yeah, the body cams thing, it's no longer acceptable not to have body cams, right?
Agreed.
It's just not, yeah.
No,
I mean, there was a transition period where police departments were they were ramping up and they were expensive, but it's like, now it's like carrying a nightstick. You got to have that.
I mean, on some level, they should want to have the body cam. I mean, if you're a good cop, I think you would want the body cam.
Sorry.
I mean, it's a pain in the ass because I don't think anybody wants to be spied upon when they do their job. But policing is a specific type of job. I mean, and it protects you every bit as much
By
as
the
it
way,
protects
speaking
the
of
person.
body cams, Jamarl, it always amazes me. Like the cops know they're wearing this camera. They put it on every day when they go to work. And
Of
so
course.
you've seen the videos. I've seen the videos, and whether you're talking about like usually these are confrontations. That's why we see the videos because they're in the news. But it always amazes me that these cops, the way that they talk and walk and act on camera, knowing that they're on camera, that they act like that. I mean, it amazes me. I mean,
Yeah.
and they know that, like, what would they do if they weren't on camera? I mean,
That's
Jesus
wild.
Christ! I mean, they don't behave in a civilized, professional manner, like ever, really, ever in
Well, it
in
depends.
that
Oh
footage.
man, it depends. Because I used to
They're not
binge.
polite.
As I've told you, I used to be a sucker for police interrogations. I love them.
Uh-huh.
I used to binge them back to back to back. And every so often, when you run out of interrogations, you're watching police footage, especially if you just leave the TV on, it just kind of keeps going. Sometimes I feel bad for them. Believe it or not. Like, have you ever saw a cop deal with a drunk driver? And it's like,
Oh God,
"Miss,
yes,
how are you doing
yes.
today? I'm doing fine. And they're just, small talk. Yeah. And then they'll say, have you had anything to drink today? And they'll be very polite, right? Like, even in interrogations, they know that you murdered 3 people and ate a baby. And they're still like, hey, how you doing today? You doing all right? Would you like something from McDonald's? Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's it's that, right? Everything to get the thing. But you're right.
Yeah.
There are times where you think to yourself, if this guy is acting like this on video, what is this guy when they didn't have video cameras, when they're off air? Terrifying. Terrifying.
It's
No, they
totally
run the
terrifying.
gambit. Yeah, it runs the gambit. But that's
Yeah,
wild that happened
I don't
down
get
his
it.
block and they don't have cameras. That's wild.
So, Stormborn, also as a Chris Nolan fan, the Odyssey sucked. Terrible
They
character
did.
development. So, I heard an interview with this lady who won some literary awards for her best-selling recent direct translation of the Odyssey from
Uh-huh.
ancient Greek. And she was on the air yesterday. And she said she hated it too. And she said that there's none of the complexity of the character is in Matt Damon's portrayal. It's basically Matt Damon is racked by anxiety, which is a distinctly 21st century phenomenon that ancient Greeks probably didn't know or think about at all. It's certainly not in the epic poem. And she said that basically it's worth seeing, and it's always good to see the classics, and on in the movies. But she thought the script was just absolutely atrocious, and that there's no. But basically, he's flat affect. He's Matt Damon. He's always the same dude the entire time. But there's none of the wild, crazy, sexual and other lusts that drove him in the book.
Well, we're in
I don't know.
woke culture. They can't do that today, which sucks.
Right.
Like, I look back at some of the stuff that they used to say and do, and yeah, the '60s had its issues, especially around race and everything else. But they there were movies that you could make, like, for example, in Battlestar Galactica, where they were doing suicides. I mean, they were doing suicide
Mm.
bombers. You couldn't do that today. At least I don't think you could. I think they would have ripped that thing off the air. I don't know. But
It's
yeah, I agree with
depressing.
you. I mean, I don't know why Nolan even made this movie. This doesn't feel like a Nolan movie, but I guess now they did Batman, to be honest.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's strange. I mean, he's maybe not the right guy to do it, but I've been accused of that, like not being the right guy to do this and that, and then,
Yeah.
but who the fuck else was going to do it, right? So it's like that. Okay, so Mr. One Boston, Talmudic secret courts, now hide laws, cheese whiz, lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. That's pretty funny. Okay, Jackson McGrath, question for Robbie. Who do you think will most likely introduce an anti-BDS law?
Nobody. I don't think there's anybody in Congress who's got the balls to do it.
Well, wait, they say anti-BDS?
Yeah, to make it
Anti-BDS.
how the government they've made it illegal, like for example in Florida or Texas, made it illegal to boycott Israel.
Right.
That's clearly an infringement on free speech. And if I'm understanding the question correctly, is like who in Congress would introduce a law saying that you cannot deprive someone the right to boycott a country or a person or organization they do not support. There is no one in the American Congress. Look at you, Rokana.
But no, I think this would be the opposite.
This is the opposite of that.
Saying that
basically saying who will put out a law saying that you can't. Right.
Oh, who?
You suppress BDS.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so I'm just getting it backwards. That's what happens if you don't go to bed and you stay up working all night. Oh gosh,
Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz would do it.
Well, I think you make the case to be bipartisan. I can see Ted Cruz and Blumenthal getting together doing it.
Fetterman, I can see him doing it.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah.
I could totally see him doing it. Fetterman's ass is wide open for Israel. Wide open.
That's so true. Yeah, no lube needed.
None.
That thing is like the Lincoln Tunnel.
Yep.
It's like the channel.
Yeah.
The current bet on the chat is how many pixels are you streaming at right now? Like, are you streaming at 4 or 6?
4.
You don't Ted.
Yeah.
Ted.
I couldn't afford the extra pixels today. I'm lucky that I'm here at all. But you know what? My skin looks so bad and blotchy today. It is like, the internet gods are doing you guys a favor. I look horrible. So even worse than usual. Okay, here, Anna Manarake, saw your Odyssey talk yesterday. I don't want race swaps either, especially for Helen and characters like Snow White. But Europeans play Middle Easterners all the time in the movies.
True.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
But
by the way, the Trojan War is mythological, right? I mean, it never happened as far as we know. I mean,
we know
there's no such
we
person
don't know.
as Helen of Troy. Probably not, right?
So we don't know.
I mean,
but
it's like King Arthur.
Yeah, but the characters are specific
It's
to
all
the like. I don't want Black Panther played by a white guy, right? Chuala, whatever the hell his name is, and some guy like Matt Damon comes out, and it's like, what the hell is this? How's Matt Damon playing?
Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr.'s already done blackface, so he can do it. Yeah.
Well, but that blackface worked. that shit worked.
Right, he's never gotten any shit for it. Yeah.
That was the greatest blackface of all times. No black person has ever taken shit, has ever given him shit for that. Even the guy who was on set was like, he stayed in character the whole time. Oh my God, he says I'm a black dude. He says I'm a dude playing another dude or something like that. Yeah, that shit was fantastic. But it would be weird to see T'Challa played by Robert Downey Jr. or played by Matt Damon. It would be strange. Right. And I guess I'm trying to make the point of it's a period.
I think it takes you out. It takes you. That's the thing. That's my thing about the race swaps too. Like Broadway theater loves to do shit like that, where it's like, it's like, it's like, or like, it's like, it's the all black cast of Macbeth, or it's like one dude plays 17 characters, including some chicks, and you're just like, and it's just like, the thing is, for me, it's not about okay, that's probably an amazingly cool and challenging thing for the actors to do and for the directors, but as an audience member who's not that bright, I have trouble following stuff like that, right? Yeah. That's my issue with it.
Yeah. Well, it's just like Alexander Hamilton, the thing that was that was just really big and stuff a few years ago. I mean,
that was a black character playing Hamilton, right?
No, they're all black or Hispanic, so it's just like,
and they're playing hip hop music, and
I mean, it was, for one thing, it was retarded. It was not good. It really wasn't a good depiction. In a lot of ways, it minimized what they went through with the challenge to actually even put the country together. Before the Revolutionary War was over, much less what happened there at the end. I mean, the first Civil War very nearly happened after independence was gained, and it just really minimizes all of that. It's just a
wait. How does it? I don't understand. How does the fact that they play hip hop music and Hamilton is black, how does that minimize the challenges of building the new republic?
Because if you're going to make a historical drama about something and you're going to be celebrating the country, then you should be as true to the source material as you possibly can. The
That
source
part I
material
I
is
agree,
the
but
historical record.
Yeah, that I
And
don't agree with. That's
and
just
also to Ted's point, a lot of people frankly are stupid. They don't know American history.
yeah. I mean, but that's like saying, I mean, the 300 wasn't an exact depiction of what took place in regards to Sparta either. I
Well,
mean, people make
No.
movies all the time or shows all the time that does it. And I know I feel like I'm arguing against my own point, but people make depictions of things all the time that are just symbolic representations of something that was already there, something that already happened. I don't think the Spartans fought with
Yeah,
these Herculean men with no shirts
I
on.
don't like it.
I mean that
I
was
kind of
bait.
don't like playing fast and loose with history because for most Americans who don't read, like The Crown, for example, is going to be the record of the of the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. They're not going to know anything else, right? And
True.
it's like, well, we took some liberties, we made up some conversation. Okay, I can see why you. I mean, you have the right to do it, but maybe you shouldn't.
But most history is an echo anyway. I mean, most of what
True.
people remember is not the item, it's the copy. And that's just human existence in general. And I'll go further with that. Even as the echo means something. Like, meaning the echo is given a hint of something that people may not necessarily remember in real terms, but they remember the contours. And you could say, well, that's bad. But otherwise, they would have nothing there. It'd just be a blank slate. They wouldn't know anything about the crown.
Right.
One way
Well,
or
that's
the other.
that's totally true. I mean, I guess like I didn't have a huge problem with Hamilton the musical because it's such a radically different take that like it's advertised. There's no way to miss it. Everyone knows. Everyone who's ever held a $10 bill knows what Alexander Hamilton looked like, right?
Right.
Everybody knows that hip hop didn't exist in 1776. So even retards do not have a problem with this. My problem is more like when you have something that purports to be an authentic depiction of events in honestly, most Americans are never going to read the Odyssey like I did in Latin, much less in ancient Greek. And they're certainly not, they won't have read it even in free verse, which is the way that most translations are, even though the poem was not. I mean, but still, so for them, this is the only version of this story, this very important story that they will ever know or see. It probably should strive for accuracy. I don't know. Accuracy.
I do get it. I do get it.
Fidelity.
The Hamilton thing,
Accuracy is
look,
not
like
the
I
right
said,
word.
I don't like the race switching. I'm not a big fan of that. Hamilton was obviously white. You should play him with a white character.
No.
And like Batman, it's like you,
Or maybe Hamilton should have been played by a 1/8 black character, right?
or by a
To
woman, right?
To be really accurate. To be
It's like how
really
far do you
accurate.
want to go with that? It's just I
Because
don't
he
know
was a little black, right?
what Hamilton.
Everybody
just-
is.
Yeah.
Let's say everybody got a little black in
Well,
it.
not everybody, but
Hamilton. Yeah, I don't know. I got to be honest. I didn't pay too much attention to Hamilton as it was taking place. I was aware of it, but not paying too much attention to it. I am not a big fan of the race switching in this stuff, though. I don't think it needs to
I
happen.
hate musicals, which is
I
why
hate it, and the reason that people use it is more of a reason I hate it, because they like it's not like sometimes it may be okay. This is just our artistic rendition of something, but usually it's we want to wokeify something. We want to add black into it. We want to add gay or trans into it. We want to add something into it. We want to inject this into society. And I keep making the point that I think they're getting this wrong. I think they're looking at this like the civil rights movement, where they're like, okay, we want to inject a black character into something. So we want to bring the horror into it. We want to add a black character into something else because we want blacks to be part of it. Okay, that's different because blacks were like 10% of your society, and pretending that they didn't exist wasn't, this was nonsense. But this is a little bit different. This is them forcing characters into stuff where the characters don't quite fit for purely racial or sex-based reasons, which is weird. Just make a character that's of that race or of that sex or of that group and do it that way. Don't try to change over people's stuff. It's going to piss them off.
In Japan a couple of years ago, there was a big outcry because one of the latest Assassin's Creed games had a black samurai, and the Japanese are kind of like, people in the West and people in the United States may put up with this crap. We, however, will not.
Yeah, we don't do
And
this.
it was it was a big backlash, and it's just no. To your point, though, about 300, that movie was based off of a comic book for one thing.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't like a documentary. I mean, a real documentary. You have the thespians and the Spartans there, like right there at the very end, and it would have been an entirely different production. The Persians around ogres, and Xerxes didn't have these big old, these big earrings. I mean, frankly,
Xerxes is 8 feet, 10 feet tall. And,
I mean, no, a real honest to God depiction of Thermopylae would have been much better than the garbage that was produced.
Nonsense. The 300 was fantastic.
No, but
I wish my real world was like that, where the Spartans were fighting and there no shirts on, these muscular men and fighting. Oh, that would have been great.
You get ventilated within an hour. There's a reason why humans wore armor. I mean, that just did not happen. No, but think about this, and I'll go away. I mean, think about this just for a second. For people who don't know, like the 10,000, the Immortals, the reason they were called that is that the regiment always had 10,000 men in it, and whenever they fought in total silence, wearing this black robe with a black mask. But it was a psychological mind screw. Yeah. So imagine how this would have been watching this force of men coming against you in total silence. Thump, 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 and like these bastards are here to kill me. And then on the other side, you got the Spartans who are just yelling at them, cussing at them, insulting their moms. Talk about a culture clash. And then at the end of the day, the Spartans just stacked them like cordwood. And they actually built a second wall out of the bodies of the Persians they were killing. That would be a historical drama that deserves to be told. But to your point, JT, you can't tell it because it'd be too violent.
But it was told. It was told in the 300 because they stacked their bodies up like that in the 300. That's what I mean. It's the echo.
Yeah.
Like most people are not going to know the 300 story. And when they saw the movie, they were like, whoa, this happened? Yeah. Yes, it happened. And the first thing they were like, oh, these guys were fighting with no shirts on and they were in there like basically underwear fighting the thing. And it's like, okay, obviously that was nonsense. But the echo remains. It's the echo that people remember. I don't know how many people remember history in the real sense of the term. I think they remember the echo of it. And you can make a question of whether or not the echo matters. Meaning whether it's important to remember the echo in opposed to the real story.
It's better to have it than not. I've had to have either just the fade from public memory altogether or just have a bastardized echo of it, to your point. I'd rather have the echo. But the real story, like the Battle of the Alamo, I mean, how many Americans know about that?
Yeah, remember the Alamo.
They know that it existed. They just don't really know what happened.
Exactly.
I'm sure how many Americans even know it existed anymore. We've forgotten our history.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know. It's fascinating when you think about it, like the way that history is passed along over the course of time.
We have an ad. I should do the ad.
We have an ad. We haven't had an ad in a while.
Yeah, here we go. All right. Okay, today's sponsor is the Chicago Steak Company. And if you care about what goes on the grill, this one makes sense. Use the code SAVOR, SAVOR, for their summer steak offer. These are not random grocery store steaks. Chicago Steak Company ages select cuts for tenderness, hand cuts them, and ships them packed cold, so dinner is already a lot closer to steakhouse quality before the grill even lights. The Savor page includes USDA Prime Filet Mignon, Chicago's best seller, and the ultimate gift assortment. On orders of $179 or more, they add 4 premium boneless petite strip steaks, 6 apple pastries, free shipping, and a $25 account credit after shipment. That's good for 6 months. Link is in the description. Use the code SAVOR at mychicagosteak.com. Again, SAVOR. All right. So we got some. Let me get to the paid comment, and then we gotta hit this other story. So Manchild, thanks for the $1. All this woke wanking is dumb. Art open to license and interpretation, and if you are not the main target audience, look away and focus on something that doesn't get your titties in a twist.
True. I mean, some people will find Hamilton rewarding, just like some people will find it honest.
Oh, it was a massive hit. I mean, it was
huge,
wildly popular.
That's my point. Yeah. People will find it rewarding. I agree with the author, kind of. It depends. Like, if you're talking about Star Wars, let's take Star Wars as an example. Okay, well, you've created a fan base of millions who love that outfit. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but you have people who love it. And then to turn around and put what they would consider to be, quote, a Mary Sue, who didn't go through the trials that Luke went through. She was just amazing on her own right, just because she was a girl boss. And it's like, okay, well, this is nonsense. Whether it's a female, whether it's male, they still have to go through the patterns of trying to learn and grow as human beings in order to get to the fruition of their powers. But if you make her a girl boss right off the bat, and then you have Luke throwing his lightsaber away, they're gonna have feelings about that. It's from their point of view, you're trashing their outfit, their artwork, the piece that they've effectively grown to love over the course of 20, 30, 40 years. Okay, I think those people have a point. I don't think it's just, okay, well, this is just a new art direction. No, it is you putting your political philosophy in a organization that didn't necessarily have it, and it doesn't really even make that much sense to put it in, and you're trashing the previous.
You betrayed your characters and the world that's
betrayed your characters here. Yeah, so this is not that. Meaning, it's one thing if you create your own thing and you have, let's say, a gay character or a trans character or whatever character you want, black, white, Chinese, whatever. Okay, that's different. Like, nobody took issue with, what is the woman who did Sleeping Dragon, Fighting Tiger, Sleeping Dragon, whatever the name of the movie is.
Yeah, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Yeah.
It's that. The main character in that, one of the main characters, the woman in that, did another movie. It was like Everywhere, Everything at Once, where she was going through time and she was getting the capabilities of the various previous lifetimes and everything else. That movie was a hit. They made that movie specifically with her in mind because it worked for her, if that makes sense. Meaning they didn't have to take another movie outlet and then put her in the movie outlet, and it didn't make sense for her to be in the outlet. It's not that. Nobody's taking issue with them putting these characters in film. The issue is that when you try to take another film, ruin it, and add the character into it, and you're like, okay, what the hell is this? Why is this person here? That's the only thing that people are taking issue with. It's not that there's a black, gay. Obviously, I'm not going to be concerned with black characters in film. I just don't like the mismatch. It's just not my cup of tea. But I take the character.
Yeah.
I take the.
I mean, one thing we've also seen. I mean, look, up until I think, as sort of a formerly still white, but as a former guilty liberal, I used to think like, well, God, black actors don't get nearly enough work, so maybe this is a way to get some work to actors of color, blah blah blah, But now that I've seen, like, you can have movies that are like have all black casts or all Asian casts and have them be really popular and big hits and find their audience. It's like Hollywood just needs to produce more movies that are like white America will show up for black movies. You just have to make them.
Marco Polo on Netflix is amazing, and on Amazon, the new Shogun adaptation of the old classic, fantastic show. Highly recommend them. You don't have to bend everything into your worldview to be able to tell a compelling story that people will spend money to watch.
Yes, agreed. It just needs to be good. It just needs to be good.
Well, so speaking of shows that may or may not be good, let's talk about the Middle Eastern War. So yesterday at my back of the envelope count, we were at 13 countries and counting, and now we're at number 14, Egypt. And there was an explosion right on the at a port on the Mediterranean coast of Egypt that blew up two ships, including a U.S. gas storage tanker. We don't really know who's responsible here. At least that has not been officially determined, and if it has been, it hasn't been announced. This is at a time when Trump supposedly is trying to end this war. But for a guy who's trying to end a war, he's not doing a very good job of trying to end the war. Anyway, so Egypt is now involved. Look, this was either the Houthis or the Iranians. I'm going to vote that it was the Houthis. How about you?
I don't know. I mean, because usually they take credit the moment that it happens.
It could be the Iranians, no question.
But see, the Iranians would have taken credit also. So I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't have been private. Like, if you think about it, every time the Houthis have hit the Saudi oil fields, they take credit. In fact, they celebrate it.
Well, it could be Hezbollah.
In hitting Egypt? I don't think so.
It's possible.
I don't know. I mean, this Hezbollah has
I
enough
don't know
trouble
that it's
on
not
its
that
own
far.
dealing with Syria and dealing with the Israelis effectively, trying to create a civil war.
It was
in
Israel
Lebanon.
that did it. I'm calling it now. It was a false flag. I think
It
Israel
was either
straight up.
Israel or Ukraine. If I had to guess.
I think Israel did it. I
I think it was
seriously think
either.
Israel did it. I mean, you can
And
make
by
the
the way,
case for
Israel
you.
could have done it. They could have done it.
But
So no bullshit. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying though it could either be the Ukrainians, the Israelis. And look, the reason why I say this is under normal circumstances, if you think about it, Iran hasn't hid its attacks. It's not like Iran has hit somebody and was like, that wasn't us. Right? Like
that's
anybody that
true.
they've hit, when they've hit a US ship, a US base, whatever, they've said, we did this. And showing satellite images of the fact that we did this, with the United States doing everything in their power to hide the damage to lives and, for that matter, material. So if Iran typically calls out that they did it and they're not, then I don't think it's them. If Ansarullah typically says that they did it and this wasn't, meaning I don't know who did this. Nobody has taken credit for this, which makes it very weird, which brings me to Robbie's case of the Israelis who oftentimes don't acknowledge the attacks that they do, and if anything, is trying to use it as a false flag to point to Iran. I mean, Israeli media has been reporting it's, quote, the Iranians that are responding for the attack on the tanker in the Caspian Sea by the Ukrainians, that this was one of the items that they were going to potentially hit. They get hit, and Israel is claiming the Iranians did it, which makes me think it was the Israelis that did it also, or the Ukrainians. Ukrainians have terror networks all throughout the Middle East, including in Africa, Sahel states, training terrorists. So I don't know. Robbie could be right. I don't know.
Well, if this were an Israeli false flag, that would be incredibly dangerous from the standpoint of Israel. I mean, if it's
True.
discovered, if Egypt determines that, I mean, that's an act of war. It's literally, it destroys the Camp David Accords. It brings an end to the peace between Egypt and Israel that's prevailed since 1979. It blows up, literally blows up the Middle East. And we don't know if Egypt might decide to roll the way that Turkey did with the Khashoggi killing, where they knew what had happened. They had the Saudi consulate bugged, and they released that information because they were pissed. They didn't care about Khashoggi. They didn't. They were like, you don't do wet ops on Turkish soil, right? Like you're that was disrespectful, and we're going to teach you a lesson for being disrespectful. Egypt would definitely view that as highly disrespectful. Plus, there's the American aspect. This was one of the ships was American. This would be like echoes of the USS Liberty, which is, of course, something that like people like us know about, but frankly, 99% of American voters know nothing about. But they would know all about if evidence that this was an Israeli attack were to come to light. I mean, do you think Israel would be that reckless as to
that
take
provocative?
that?
Oh, dude, I don't know.
They're not provocative, but are they willing to take such a big chance of being exposed for the shitholes that they are?
If they think that they can point it to the Iranians and say, well, Iran said they were going to respond for the attack on the tanker in the Caspian Sea, and this is their response to it. I mean, the catch is, can you sell that? And can you sell it in a way that the Egyptians don't know that it was you?
Is the evidence all destroyed? Is there evidence? I mean, there's got to be, there's radar, there's satellite. I mean, yeah, it was a drone attack, right? We don't know if bits and pieces of the drone survived. But I mean, if there's any kind of surviving evidence, look out.
I guess my thing is,
I don't think it's Ukraine at all.
You don't? Oh, see, I don't know. I mean, Ukraine has been running operations in the Middle East, so I don't know. I mean, well, put it this way. I guess the point would be, what would be the point of the attack? It's that. Let's start there. Now, I mean, why hit Egypt? Like, that just seems so random. It's like the port blows up in Egypt. If you are trying to point the finger at somebody, then maybe you hit Egypt if you're trying to maneuver Egypt into the war, into a larger war.
Egypt it does not host the United States or any military facilities that are used against Iran. So Iran doesn't have beef with Egypt.
Exactly. So who would benefit from bringing Egypt into the war? I think that's the question.
Also,
Well, the
you got to
Houthis
remember.
are more. That's why I think that's the Houthis, because they're spicy and random.
Well, also you got to remember a lot of your average everyday Egyptians are furious with their government for not intervening against Israel against the genocide in Gaza.
Right.
So that could be part of the play there too. Just piss off the Egyptians and get them. Hey, maybe the Israelis really are our friend. So who
Yeah,
knows?
I don't know. I mean, up to this point, nobody's taking credit, and usually people take credit.
But as far as manufactured consent, I mean, no, we're ran by the Epstein class. So let's not pretend like, for example, they care one bit about what the United States or someone else thinks because they own us anyway.
Well, no, what I mean by that is if somebody is trying to vector another country into the war and they take an action and the action is provocative, action, obviously blowing up, the Egyptian the LNG thing is obviously provocative. Then it's like, okay, well, what does Egypt do now that this has happened? And on some level, what Egypt does may give some kind of credibility or credence to who did it. Like, meaning, if Egypt turns around and says, we blame so and so for this, or if Egypt turns around and says, we think Ansar Allah did this, or if we didn't. But again, none of these actors took credit for this, and both actors tend to take credit for everything that they effectively do as states. So this could be a non-state actor, and then the catch becomes a non-state actor with the goal of accomplishing what? What are they trying to push Egypt to do? Is it just to piss them off?
Egypt has been has had a lot of internal terrorism, right? There was the attack at the temple at Luxor. I mean, hell, it's crazy. My ex-wife almost got blown up by a Al Qaeda bomb in Cairo. Like, she missed it by 40. The place where she was sitting disappeared 45 minutes after she got up and left. I mean, there's been so much, Islamist activity there. So this could be internal bullshit masquerading as international expansion of the Middle East war.
True. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still waiting for somebody to give some kind of word that they did it.
I mean, obviously nowadays drone warfare is, exceedingly affordable. It's accessible to anybody. I mean,
yeah.
Hey, JT, you want to start a war? I've got a free afternoon.
I have drones. It's wild.
Got nothing else to do.
This is kind of like in God Emperor Dune. I don't think you've ever read the Frank Herbert books.
No.
But for any in the audience that have, they would know exactly what I'm talking about. God Emperor Dune was one of the best books in the series. The first book, Dune, is great. God Emperor, I would argue, is better. But he makes the point of saying he prevented planets and governments from developing technology. And his rationale for it was this is the only way to stay in power. Because the moment that people can develop technology, it gets cheaper, more affordable. And smaller countries, or for that matter, smaller worlds, have the capacity to deal with much larger armies and militaries in an asymmetric way, using the technology that they're able to develop. And I think that's what we're seeing. I mean, Frank Herbert wrote that book like in the 60s. And we're effectively seeing the culmination of that with countries like Yemen being able to hold off Saudi Arabia is like the 5th largest military, something like that. Or for that matter, even able to hold off the U.S., who's trying to get strike capability against the Houthis, or against Ansar Allah. Smaller countries are able to hold off larger countries because technology has developed in a way that allows them to do so. And that's what we're saying. Herbert nailed it.
Agreed. And that's a great place to end it. Thank you very much for that, JT. I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll see the rest of you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We're here Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Please stay tuned for the TMI show with myself and Manila Chan. Just a reminder, DMZ America with Scott Stantis and I is a new time, Fridays, not Thursdays anymore, at 11 a.m. See you later. Bye.
Manila, hi. Bye-bye.
Well.